Welcome to BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Learn more at businessofcannabis.com. On this morning's BFC Live, we connect with Darren Karasiuk. He's the Chief Executive Officer at NOVA Cannabis. They are, of course, NOVA Cannabis, but also Value Buds, a Canadian cannabis retail chain. We wanted to connect with him about those two cannabis retail properties, but also about the industry overall and where he believes cannabis retail is going in Canada. I wanted to connect with you because you have a storied career in Canadian cannabis. And although I'm looking at LinkedIn right now, it started way back in the mid 20-teens, which does seem like a long time ago. Talk about, I guess, if you look at the arc of that, so when you first got into cannabis to today, what's the one thing, if there was one thing you point to that's like, God, I can't believe that happened, and now we're here?
The one thing that happened. Wow.
Thought I'd kick it off with a trick question.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I suppose, I think that the speed of the cycle, if you will, has been really the one thing that stands out, right? We were all kind of not opportunistic, but we're really positive on this industry and on this sector. And, listen, we knew it was going to grow, didn't know how long it was going to take to grow in medical. Then rec came along and all these thoughts, but just the explosion of things, the pace with which we've gone that entire cycle, right? From those early days on the LP side of things, remember analysts and then, counting lights and basing valuations on companies based on the number of grow lights, right? Then it pivoted to licenses, then it was funded capacity, and then it was this, and then everything's going to change. And then, then everyone's kind of realized, oh, okay, on the LP side of things, just the speed with which that has happened, and kind of compare and contrast the speed of that with, I'll call it the relative slowness on the product side of things in terms of anything that I would call really truly transformative. So sort of interestingly, two diverging paces of development there, I think are probably most of a surprise.
And I guess that brings up the question, like, is there a time where there will be this equilibrium almost? And I don't mean like between capacity and product sold, but like where, because as you're saying that the pace was amazing, and like from the LP side, and then not only the product side, but also just the retail capacity, and which we're going to talk about, but like just the places to go buy cannabis, especially in Ontario, just really weren't there. But now they are catching up, and now we may be getting closer to there. The products may be catching up, the right sizing of like the production capacity and all those things. Like, is there a time that you see where we do reach an equilibrium where we could say, okay, this is what a sort of steady state market looks like, and now everybody can adjust? Or is that excuse the pun, is that a pipe dream?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's, I think that understanding of sort of what the actuality of the marketplace is going to look like will arrive. But the caveat to that, though, is when you start seeing the introduction of cannabinoids into mainstream products, right? CBD in your, product X made by whatever, that's going to change things again in terms of pace. So I think the answer there is a lot of it's going to be sort of, the increases in pace, the pickups, if you will, are going to be a function of either some step change technology, or in cannabis as we know it becoming introduced into mainstream products more prominently, or maybe even into more mainstream occasions, right? Cannabis now, still can't consume it. It's in a bar or restaurant type setting, right? It's not there. when those things start to happen, then I think you're going to see another one. But I think in the short term, what the market's finding out, certainly on the LP side of things, is where this steady state is coming to look at. And the truth of the matter is, Jay, that so much of that hype early on was predicated on this idea of the aspirational consumer, right? And that aspirational consumer hasn't turned up yet. As I often say, Lululemon wearing soccer mom, soccer dad, whatever, swapping out their Pinot Grigio for Pink Kush, just hasn't happened in any meaningful way. So it's going to take some time before that. But that core consumer base, right? The legacy consumer, if you will, that they've been around before legalization. They haven't gone anywhere, and they're still migrating slowly but surely from the unregulated market to the regulated market. And that's where, I think you're certainly in the short term going to see the biggest growth at the retail level. And you're certainly seeing that when it comes to product categories and what's most appealing for the categories that are in fact out there, right? Indeed, that's the entire premise behind what we're doing with Value Buds, is recognizing this isn't about an aspirational consumer. That'll come, but it's about understanding the current consumer, the proven marketplace, and providing a service offering to them, which is something that has been largely ignored in years past.
Yeah, and it's interesting because almost exactly a year ago, right now, I was on the OCS website, and I think it was Pure Sun Farms had like a 28 gram bag, like a big bag of weed, that happened to coincide the launch with COVID. And we were talking to retailers, and they were saying that's what people want right now, right? They want the bigger formats. They want the value formats in that case, because, well, first of all, we were in lockdown and they wanted to not go to the store very often, or wanted to deliver once, not 700 times. But like, my sense is that has stayed. I want to check with you because obviously you're the CEO of Value Buds and the footprint. Like, is that what you're seeing sort of in the data and the insights, but also where you think the world is going, especially with those sort of legacy consumers who are buying, I don't know if it's 80% of the cannabis products, but it's a good chunk.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're seeing there, right? I mean, you're seeing some experimentation at 3.5, eighths, or for the Ontario crowd of a certain vintage, half quarters. It's out there. You're shaking your head because you know exactly.
It's good math. At least it's good math.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of that, but then it's a migration up to the big bags, right? People are testing and figuring out what they in fact might like to try in the marketplace, but seem to be jumping up to the big bags pretty aggressively. Big bags are still flying off the shelf that's there, right? And again, the legacy consumer, right? That's largely what it's about, And if you can pick up an ounce now for less than $100, that's a good deal. So, the consumer's still doing that math in their head about, they're still looking at THC, and they're still looking at price to THC, doing that mental math when they're in the store about what the best deals are there. That's very much where we're seeing things. Concentrates continue to pick up for sure. Vapes, as those are starting to develop, I think you're going to see when you start seeing extracts kind of come along. Yeah, there are some in the product in the pipeline now and some in the marketplace. But when you start seeing more and more of that, the kind of products that legacy consumers really enjoyed, starting to see those at a decent quality, a decent price point, then that migration, we believe, will certainly accelerate through to the regulated channel.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about Value Buds in particular, because I think we connected maybe through LinkedIn because we have one at Bloor, well, one getting ready at Bloor and Lansdowne, but now I realize there's another one at Bloor, like in Bathurst area, I believe. Like, obviously the footprint is expanding. The signs say I think getting ready for 200 stores throughout Canada. Talk a little bit about that, because that is a massive expansion, obviously. But now it seems more realistic than if you said it like a year ago. People would be like, "That's never going to happen." Like, but talk a little bit about that expansion, sort of how you get to there, and sort of the game plan to sort of that you're planning against.
Sure. Before that, though, I'm going to thank you in advance for your patronage to that store that's close
Sure.
to your house. I certainly look back for your feedback in terms of when that one opens and what you
Well,
expect.
it's even a store being built there is as an improvement from what it was prior. It was a 24-hour coffee time. I much prefer even a Value Buds getting ready to open up than a coffee time open 24 hours a day. Sorry, all you coffee time fans, if any of you are watching.
Don't think you have to worry about
No,
that,
at
but
least it'll be there.
I think you're welcome. Listen, the Value Bud story is, again, at the heart of it is a recognition of what the proven market is all about, right? In terms of my background, as you might be aware, I did the first work ever in terms of understanding the cannabis consumer, in terms of marketplace segmentations and analysis, and authored that Deloitte study way back in the day and all the rest of it. And what we knew then is what we knew now, which is 20% of the adult consumers consume 70% of the product that's out there, and they tend to be a value-focused consumer, right? And so that was really the genesis of what we saw. And in the case of Value Buds, which is the banner under Nova, we had the benefit to test that hypothesis out in Alberta, which we did last year, 4 stores, and saw just incredible growth when we says, all right, we're going to drop the prices on these products way down and really see what this is all about. And we're talking about 250+% sales lifts, which was just massive. And that really went, okay, we get it. And again, because Nova is it's my majority shareholder is Alcanna, which is a liquor retailer out west. They've been playing this value game for a long time. They wrote the book on it in liquor, so that really helped. When you kind of roll all that up together, it gives us, I know, a strategy where there's absolute demand in terms of the consumer base that's out there, and we have the backing of this entire group that's been doing this for a couple of years to be able to execute on it. And it's got the experience not only doing it in cannabis, but got the experience doing it in liquor as well. There's a lot of parallels across the board. So we've got this track record of being able to expand rapidly. We have the back office, we have all the skills from HR to legal to construction to finance to real estate, you name it. It's all there, and it's all been battle tested in terms of an ability to roll out. One of the other advantages we have is because we've got this backing, when it comes to negotiating with landlords, you'll often hear landlords say, well, we're thinking about allowing cannabis in here, but it's 2 folks who've never run a business who are trying to, there's a risk associated with that. With us and with our backing and our balance sheet, we de-risk it for landlords. So they're like, yep, come on in, we get what you're doing. And that's really helping us with our expansion plans. We've, on the closing of our most recent transaction, we had 53 stores operating. And now we've got dozens in process now, most of which are in Ontario and some still in Alberta. We're starting to see Alberta stores coming and saying, we want out. Will you take us over? Will you take our stores? So if it makes sense, we're absolutely going to be looking at those opportunities. And that's really how we're going to do it. I think the other part, Jay, too, is because we're so focused on one core consumer, right? We're focused on certain geographies that we know make sense, right? We're not, if you take a look at, some parts of downtown, you're not going to find us in Rosedale, right? You're not going to find us on Bloor West, down by Holtz and the like there. We're focused on areas that are largely underserved in the they'll call it the 407 or the 905 corridor that's out there. So that's where we're looking. There's a lot of opportunities. We're being smart about the acquisitions that we're contemplating. We're being smart about the leases that we're looking at. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We've got these great relationships with landlords as well. They're helping us get in good positions for our continued growth. So that's how we're going to be doing it. We're awfully optimistic about those numbers for sure.
Well, when you say all those things, it's like it's taking everything that's obviously happened to date on what consumers are buying, right, and sort of doing the strategy and analytics around that. But then it's also around what works from a retail perspective and how and where and why people want to buy. So it seems spot on to what we see happening, certainly in Ontario and obviously Alberta, maybe even a little bit ahead of where we are here in terms of density and all those things, and sort of learning from consumers. But I appreciate it, and I'm hopeful that at some point, I don't know, 5 months from now, we'll be able to have this conversation at the Bloor Lansdowne location in person, quasi post COVID. If you're open to that, Darren, I'd love to see you there with a microphone.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. All right. Very much so.
I appreciate it. One of these hats is coming your way, so you're good with that. Darren, thanks for making time. We look forward to connect with you down the road, and see you soon.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Was Darren Karasiuk of NOVA Cannabis. If you like this program, please rate us and review us wherever you found it. Thank you for joining us on B of C Live today. We're able to do what we do thanks to our ongoing partners, including Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Headset, Gallagher, and Torque & Main.